Hello and welcome to News Now. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday unveiled the blueprint for the oil industry. The 7 elements of the blueprint include solving the Niger Delta development and security problems, policy and regulation reforms, business environment and investment drive, transparency and efficiency, stakeholders management and international coordination, gas revolution, and finally refineries and local production capacity. On the issue of the Niger Delta, Buhari says he will meet with leaders in the region in Abuja next week to discuss ways to end the unrest. He says ending the unrest in the region is a crucial component of the government's plan for the industry. President Buhari also says the petroleum industry bill remain critical to the Nigerian economy in spite of the current challenges. He said oil and gas remain the critical factor of the successful implementation of the nation's budget. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has dismissed the appeal filed by Senate President Bukola Saraki challenging his criminal trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The Justice Abdul Aboki-led panel of judges gave the ruling after listening to the arguments of the defense and prosecuting counsel. Justice Aboki, in his judgment, dismissed the appeal for lack of merit. The Senate President had in his appeal challenged the jurisdiction of the Code of Conduct Tribunal to try him on charges of false and anticipatory assets declaration. He is facing 16 counts of false declaration of assets while he was governor of Kwara State and has pleaded not guilty to the charges. He has now lost his appeals at the Federal High Court, Appeal Court, and Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has passed an amendment to the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act. The amendment comes more than 3 months after the House of Representatives passed a similar bill amending the CCB and the Code of Conduct Tribunal Act. The amended act makes it compulsory for the Bureau to ensure that anyone who violates the provision stated in the act would be given a fair hearing before any reference to the tribunal. As part of the amendment, the Code of Conduct Tribunal shall be made up of the chairman and 4 other members, with 3 of the 5 forming the quorum on every sitting. The lawmakers, however, allowed the president to maintain his appointment powers now over the Code of Conduct Bureau before the controlling powers over the Bureau and the tribunal. Before now, the controlling powers had actually been transferred to the National Assembly. Well, Nigeria's Debt Management Office says the government needs to change its blueprint for the economy if it wants to get the country out of recession. The DMO in its debt sustainability report says Nigeria's debt position has deteriorated in 2016 from a low risk of debt distress to a medium risk. According to the report, the government must maintain its focus on diversifying the economy away from its overdependence on oil. The DMO says that concrete and urgent steps must be taken to broaden the nation's tax base and improve efficiency in tax administration and collection. It urged the government to ensure the strict adherence to the annual national budget calendar to facilitate growth recovery and reduce fiscal slippages and delays in budget implementation. It also says the country can only afford to borrow $22.08 billion next year, equivalent to 5.89% of projected GDP, if it wants to keep overall borrowing under the limit of 19.39% of GDP that the government has set for itself. The opposition People's Democratic Party has asked the National Assembly to reject President Muhammadu Buhari's proposal to borrow $29.96 billion from abroad to fund planned infrastructure projects until 2018. The party in a statement said the president should explain what he has done with the recovered looted funds and how far the 2016 budget is faring before asking for the loan. The party also says the decision to borrow will be a great injustice to Nigerians and urged the National Assembly to reject what it calls the anti-people request. The Nigeria Labour Congress on Thursday slammed the Nigerian Senate over its proposal for the reintroduction of toll gates across the country. The Senate had on Tuesday passed a motion seeking to resuscitate the collection of tolls on federal highways across the country. The NLC General Secretary Peter Ozoeson, while reacting to the development in Abuja, said Nigeria's policy-making processes needed to be interrogated. Ozoeson says the proposed reintroduction of tolls at this time would be excessively worrisome to all Nigerians. As such a policy, he says, would further escalate inflation rate. A member of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Femi Odekunle, has called for the probe of previous Nigerian administrations beyond the government of Goodluck Jonathan. Speaking at a forum on Thursday, Odekunle also called for the revocation of national honors bestowed on corrupt individuals. He says officials of previous governments backdated to the military regime of retired General Babangida should also be probed. President Buhari established the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption in 2015 to coordinate his anti-corruption war and complement the efforts of the anti-corruption agencies, of course such agencies like the EFCC and ICPC. Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the ongoing efforts by the federal government to revive the nation's economy will not yield positive results unless the fight against corruption is also intensified. Speaking at the 2016 annual lecture of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria in Abuja on Thursday, the minister says there's a direct correlation between corruption and economic growth, noting that corruption stifles economic growth in many ways and discourages foreign investment, reduce tax revenue and prevents infrastructural development. He also reiterated that the government will not relent in its effort to tackle the menace of corruption until it is completely eradicated from the society. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Mahmood Mohammed, says the National Judicial Council will consider an application by a civil society group demanding media coverage of court sessions in the country. In a letter to the group's leader, Mohammed promised that the NJC would consider the request at its next meeting scheduled to hold in November. The group, Civil Society for Social and Economic Rights, made the request in response to the recent controversy over the arrest of judges accused of corruption. The 7 judges were arrested by the State Security Service on September the 7th. The Nigerian government says it has released 25 billion naira for social intervention programs. This was disclosed by the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, while briefing journalists at the end of the meeting of the Federal Executive Council. Ahmed also says an additional 40 billion naira is about to be released for the program, which has just kick-started. Among the intervention program put in place by the government is the school feeding program and payment of 5,000 monthly to vulnerable persons and others. Ahmed says the government is rolling out the first 4 programs, which will continue till 2017.
Corruption not in my country.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. 2 of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no. You don't need to do this. We're only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Okay, which came up with this one now? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. The Nigerian government has approved a 3-year plan to borrow $29.96 billion abroad as the country seeks to move its economy away from recession. The Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, in a statement on Thursday, says the loans will come from agencies such as the World Bank, Africa Development Bank, China Exim Bank, and other development agencies like the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA. According to the statement, out of the total amount, federal government will take $25.8 billion and states $4.1 billion. A further breakdown shows that $18.3 billion will be spent on infrastructure development, with $14.6 billion going to federal projects and $3.4 billion going to state projects. Players in the Nigerian maritime industry say more reform still needs to be carried out at the country's ports to bring them up to speed with modern developments in the maritime sector and enable the country generate more revenue from the ports. Nigeria had carried out an extensive reform of its seaports in 2012, but experts say more still needs to be done to make the ports more efficient and become money spinners for the country. Correspondent Abiola Ismail has that report.
At a time when Nigeria is looking outside oil to generate revenue, to keep its economy running, attention is now shifting to the country's seaports to help bail Nigeria from its economic challenges. Nigeria's seaports, especially the one in Lagos, are among the busiest in West Africa's sub-region. But they are also notorious for being among the most congested, and this despite reforms carried out by the government in the past to make the port more efficient. Turnaround time at Nigerian ports is among the slowest on the continent, giving room for lack of transparency and proper accountability, which feed on the congestion. The government now says all that must change. It is now planning to digitize and automate the country's port operations through an initiative it calls the Single Window Project.
The Ministry of Transportation is also promoting the National Single Window Project. The National Single Window Project will reduce contact with human beings. It means you can also do your transaction online. You can pay your custom charges, your MPA charges, your NIMASA charges, and all the other charges online. Another important thing we're doing is the government is working very hard to reduce the turnaround time for vessels calling at our ports. And to do that, it depends on a number of factors. Well, government is working towards a 48-hour turnaround time. If you look at the most efficient ports globally, whether it's in the port of Singapore, they used to have a 48-hour turnaround time. They've worked to a 6-hour turnaround time with the use of technology. And we are also employing the same use of technology to achieve a 48-hour turnaround. You might say that that's not the best we can get globally, but we're in transition. We're moving from a time when you had as much as 30 days turnaround time, 12 days turnaround time. We now want to accomplish 48 hours turnaround time in our ports.
What the federal government focuses on is infrastructure, creating the enabling environment for businesses like members of the Chamber of Commerce to thrive. And to do that, we have to fix the roads, the power, the rail, the infrastructure, things that businesses need to be able to conduct their businesses profitably and conveniently. So we're working on access to the ports, right from the ports out, and from in-country to the ports, and then from there out. So we need to make sure that the ports are open for longer. So we're working on ports being open for 24 hours. We need to make sure that there's a single window so that there's a streamline in the operations at the ports. And we also need to make sure that just all the players at the ports, there's transparency of provisions, of information collection, less corruption, things that really enable the businesses to be able to thrive in what they do. That is the role of the federal government, and that's what we're committed to. There's a Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council that's working on this. It's chaired by the Vice President, and it has about 9 ministers in it, and including the Central Bank Governor and the head of the civil service.
In its bid to reduce turnaround time at its port, the government in 2011 ejected the Standard Organization of Nigeria (SON) from the port. The body is responsible for ensuring only quality goods are allowed entry into the country. With Nigeria now battling serious a new influx of substandard products, the Single Window Project is expected to bring back SON into port operations without any fuss over delays.
The only thing that will happen is, first we have to develop our Single Window Project, where all the agencies, not only of government, but all the agencies, all the stakeholders at the maritime industry will have their processes electronically uploaded into a platform called the Single Window, where everybody will now be seeing what is happening on that portal. From your comfort of your room, you will see the container, the details of the container, and the owners of the container. Then it will be easy for you to say that, yes, this is a product that is under SON. You have the particulars of the importer. You have the particulars of the clearing agent. So handling that consignment will be very easy. but a situation where you are faced with a lot of issues of falsification of documents, issues of concealment, issues of smuggling, issues of people saying this product is a NAFDAC controlled product when it is not. Electrical cable is declared as plastics or even as agricultural product. And so when those issues are there at the port, who will identify them except the organization that is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring the quality of comes into this country, and that is the Standards Organization of Nigeria.
The country's Shippers Council is also backing the initiative, saying it is long overdue and would transform Nigeria's ports and bring them in league with modern ports around the world.
One way to go, is by automation. Shipping is international. There is no local shipping. There is no Nigerian shipping. We have to, as much as we can, try to adopt the best practice that happens, internationally. And I think we have come to the fair conclusion that the redeployment of automation, electronic platforms at the port will not only reduce or eliminate corruption, it will also synchronize and fasten cargo clearance, and it will plug the leakages in revenue. It will enhance our system, but most importantly, it will make Nigerian ports competitive so that Nigerian ports will be the preferred destination of cargo from everywhere in the world. Now, if this happens, it means there will be economic interpretation. The more cargo we have at the ports, the more employment we have for our people, the more engaged our freight forwarders are, the more engaged our truckers, and other ancillary services. And this will have enormous impact on Nigeria's economy.
At the beginning of the year, the Nigerian Port Authority had projected revenue of 201 billion naira for 2016. Even if it does not meet the revenue target, experts say by implementing the single window project, the country will have saved at least 1 trillion naira, which is estimated to be what Nigeria loses owing to inefficiency at its ports. Abiola Ismail, TV360, Lagos.
Now, oil edged above $50 a barrel on Thursday as a further drop in U.S. crude inventories countered investor doubts that OPEC will be able to implement a production cut. OPEC agreed last month its first deal to restrain output in 8 years to boost prices, but Iraq on Sunday called for Baghdad to be exempt, adding to the list of members seeking special treatment. Brent crude was $50.35 a barrel, while U.S. crude gained 23 cents to $49.41 a barrel. A technical meeting at OPEC's headquarters on Friday is supposed to come up with recommendations on how to implement the supply cutback to the oil ministers' next meeting on November the 30th. The OPEC plan is designed to speed up the removal of a supply glut that is keeping oil prices at less than half their level of mid-2014, cutting exporters' income and leading to investment cuts by oil companies worldwide. Two powerful earthquakes have hit central Italy, damaging buildings and injuring dozens of people. The first earthquake, 7 kilometers southwest of Viso, was relatively shallow at a depth of 9 kilometers, while the second was 2 kilometers northwest of Viso at a depth of 10 kilometers. It comes months after a 6.2 magnitude earthquake hit central Italy, killing about 247 people. Officials say the recent earthquake is linked to the previous one in August. Republican Donald Trump has been criticized by the family of a dead Muslim soldier after saying as president he would have kept him alive. The Republican candidate's reaction, in which he implied the mother was not allowed to speak up, attracted strong condemnation from within his own party. The soldier's father, Kiza Khan, says it was a cruel remark. He is campaigning for Hillary Clinton, who makes her first joint appearance with First Lady Michelle Obama on Friday. The 2016 U.S. election will hold on Tuesday, November the 8th. To sports now, Super Eagles coach Gennett Rohr says Chelsea winger Victor Moses still has a lot of work to do if he wants to earn his place in the national team. Moses, who made his Super Eagles debut in 2012, has enjoyed a string of first-team appearances for Chelsea after adapting to his new role as right wing back. However, despite his upturn in form for his club side. Raw says the 26-year-old still has so much more to do to get a spot in the Eagles team. He says he's impressed with his current Eagles squad and admitted that the players who secured victory for Nigeria in the first World Cup qualifier against Zambia will get first preference in his squad selection. The Eagles coach is currently on a working tour of Europe where he is expected to meet the club's officials and the players he wants to invite for Nigeria's Russia 2018 World Cup qualifier against Algeria next month. The English Football Association has charged Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho with improper conduct for his comments about referee Anthony Taylor ahead of the match against Liverpool last Monday. Mourinho had in his pre-match press conference claimed it would be difficult for the referee who hails from Greater Manchester to officiate the game owing to the proximity of his home to Manchester United's Old Trafford Stadium. The FA says the comment puts pressure on the official and have now decided to charge Mourinho. The Portuguese has until 6 p.m. on October the 31st to respond to charges of improper conduct and bringing the game into disrepute. He faces, of course, a one-match ban for the offence. That's if he is found guilty. At least 7 fans have been arrested in connection with the violence that marred West Ham United's 2-1 English Football League Cup victory over London rivals Chelsea. The incident occurred after the full-time whistle as fans from both sides clashed. Stewards and police in riot gear were forced to come between the supporters who were hurling plastic bottles, coins and cheers at each other. West Ham manager Slaven Bilic has already condemned the incident, adding that the club is totally against such a behavior. The club in its response says it will issue a live ban on any fan who is involved in the incident. Well, that's it in news now. We thank you very much for watching. Continue to stay tuned to TV360.